let's discuss the Raiders bye week. Mike, are there any changes or anything that you want to see from the Raiders going into the bye? Or is this just like, write it out as it is? Let's try and lose some games, tank for a quarterback. How are you feeling?
It's a great question. Well, it's funny. It's funny because I just recently got Madden, and I started playing franchise mode, and I simmed the season to like the current point. So I played the Chiefs game, and I wasn't expecting to win the Chiefs game, but in Madden, obviously I won, right? So then I'm 6-6 going into the bye week. Then I come out and I face the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, I win that game too. I'm 7-6. Like, okay. Meanwhile, the Broncos are like 8-5 or something. Like, the Broncos have gone on an insane win streak right now. I don't know who they're facing in the next couple weeks, but they're right there. They went from like what 1-4 to like they might be 6-4 or something, right? That sounds about right. It's insane, but or they're 5-5, but still. But that's enough. Nice talk about the Broncos.
I think the Broncos are 5-5.
Yeah, I want to say.
Let me double check that. Let me double check.
But yeah, I was playing Madden. I was like, it's still
they're 6-5. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And they're tied with. Well, actually, they're above the Bills now because the Bills lost, so they're 6-6. I want to say. Right.
Let me pull up the playoff picture again, an updated one. But I'm pretty sure the Broncos are in as of right now. Oh, they're not.
If they're not, it's like the Texans and Colts.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen real quick.
Cool.
Because I feel like it sort of branches in on what you would want the Raiders to do.
Yeah.
So
the
we got
Jags
the Ravens
are tied with the Chiefs.
Yeah, Jags and Chiefs.
And the Dolphins. The Steelers just beat. Who did they just beat? Oh, that was the Bengals, right?
Yeah, they
week
just
12 because we're going into week 13. And then the Browns just lost to the Broncos, which is huge for playoff implications. But I mean, upcoming schedule for the Raiders. What is it? Obviously bye week, Minnesota, Chargers, then Chiefs.
The Raiders' remaining schedule, they've got the Vikings after their bye week. Then they've got the Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Broncos.
And suddenly the Broncos sound like a hard team to beat, and the Colts are the 7th seed, so they're no slouch either. I don't know. The Raiders are in this weird spot where and I mean, right there, you can see the Vikings are the 7th seed as well. I mean, the Raiders could very well lose out and earn themselves like a top 8 pick. They could also win out of 5 games left. They could win 3 of them and end out 1 game below 500. And all things considered, starting a rookie quarterback most of the season, yada, 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 interim head coach, not bad, right? I don't really know what I want. Like, I think the biggest thing that I was feeling has already been done, which is get rid of Marcus Peters and let the young players go out there and play and see what you have in them. So Jacorian Bennett, I don't want to see him inactive another game this season. And the last time I said I don't want to see this again this season, it happened with Jimmy Garoppolo not playing for the Raiders so far. Knock on wood, right? But I want to see Jacorian Bennett playing every single game. I want to see him getting starts. I want to see him on the field, right? I don't care if he gets burned. Like, let him play. Like, you just lost a game that you kind of needed. And you have a lot of tough games coming up against, other than the Chargers, playoff teams right now. So,
real quick, I do want to take this comment. This has been a while since FA has checked us out. We appreciate you for coming back. As for the Chiefs, they can kick rocks, but they just demolished the Raiders. So, go on, Mike. Sorry.
No, you're good. I do appreciate the comment. I didn't know if we were gonna ever see him again. I should have known that this would be the week that we'd see him.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So,
yeah,
I was like, I did kind of think in the back of my mind, like when the Raiders play the Chiefs, he's going to come back.
yeah.
But,
yeah. And it's funny because like early on in the Chiefs game, I'm kind of backtracking here, but it was 14-0 Raiders, and I'm thinking like, dude, we might beat the Chiefs. And I was just sitting there like, damn it, I really said the Raiders are going to lose this week, and like, bet it on the pod and everything. Like, damn it. Because early in the offseason, maybe it was the episode, like end of the preseason episode, I said, I guarantee we're going to beat the Chiefs once this season. Let me just say,
I do remember you saying that.
That was when I thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be good, and I didn't think we were going to be starting a rookie quarterback or have an interim coaching staff, right? So,
well, newsflash, the quarterback that they have is better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and the coach they have is better than Josh McDaniels, and it still wasn't enough to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, but that's a pretty low bar in hindsight,
Yeah.
And I think the issue with like a rookie quarterback is, like I said, preparedness, and interim head coach who has never coached in the NFL, like coordinator or head coach before, preparedness, right? Mm-hmm. So that's tough. But I was thinking about this, and this is another like kind of off track thing here, but obviously we'll get into this soon, but the Niners beat the Seahawks, and I was seeing like TikToks and people on Twitter and stuff about like, oh man, I've been waiting for this moment. Like I've been waiting for times like this when the Niners would clearly be better than the Seahawks and beat their ass on Thanksgiving and really get to like kind of show like, yeah, and eat the turkey, but just also like, just to say like, okay, our team is better and it's clear, and we're going to kick their ass. They're not going to kick our ass anymore, dating back to like Richard Sherman and the Legion of Boom and all that, right? Seahawks winning NFC championships and Super Bowls, and the Niners not doing that in that time frame. Those were times that sucked for you guys. Right now, we are the Niners and the Chiefs are the Seahawks. And yet it feels worse because they have the best player in football and probably the best coach in football. I cannot wait. I don't care if what was his name? Was it Hefe?
Hefe.
Or Hefe, yeah. I don't know if he's here, but I can't wait for the day that the Raiders are clearly the better team and kick their ass every single time that they face them. I cannot wait.
You know what I'll say? I would say it's less like Niners Seahawks and more like maybe the Rams and Seahawks or the Cardinals and Seahawks. But I get what you mean. It's like this team just has like the dominance, but I feel like it's a little bit of a different
It's situation. A little different because the Raiders aren't like making the playoffs every here and there and like winning playoff games like maybe the Niners did at that time. But if you asked any Chiefs fan who their number one rival is, they would say the Raiders. And if you ask any Raider fan who their number one rival is, they're going to say the Chiefs. Like this is top rival versus top rival.
Mm-hmm.
And like we hate them. We hate each other.
I would say any Chiefs fan would say that either the Bengals or the Bills are their rival because any Chiefs fan just came out of nowhere about like 5 years ago. But
okay, well, that's fair.
I mean, no offense, Hefe. One thing I will say though is the reason why I said that it's a little bit different between like the Seahawks Niner rivalry and the Chiefs Raider rivalry is because the Niners and the Seahawks, it was like whoever was going to win those NFC championship games was going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or not. I guess they only played once in the NFC championship, but
it still felt like whoever came out on top in the playoffs is like the favorite in the NFC.
Yeah.
Like I said,
they were the top two teams in football.
Yeah. It is different because, yes, it's like the Raiders aren't this team that's pretty dominant, winning playoff games, yada, yada, yada. It's just they're still trying to figure it out. It's been a 21-year endeavor of how are we going to get back to the Super Bowl? How are we going to build the roster, the team to do that? And 20 years, a new city, a new stadium, still many quarterbacks, many coaches, and it's still ongoing. When they get it right, it's going to be fun. It's going to be long awaited for many fans.
Yeah.
And people will not hear the end of it.
Mm-hmm. But just to further the point, the level of heartbreak, because like the Chiefs are like clearly the number one in that division, right?
Right.
And they're just kicking everyone else while they're down.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I know I don't really need to further explain it, but just because I want to add this because I'm traumatized, the Niners and the Seahawks were like neck and neck, and then it's like we're both at the top. The trophy's right there in front of us. And then what's that song? The Star Wars, the Duel of the Fates. It's like Duel of the Fates right there. And then, the Niners are Anakin Skywalker getting their legs chopped off. It's and then now we're finally back as Darth Vader. The Empire Strikes Back.
There you go. Usually the Raiders get the Star Wars, comparisons, but I'll give it to you.
Well, the Raiders will get it when they earn it back. No, I'm just.
Well, I hope they earn it back soon. I'm tired of it.
I'm just playing with you, Raider fans.
So in the bye week, in the bye week, I'm hoping for a major turnaround. I want to see us win out, go to the playoffs, and win a Super Bowl this year. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. But I don't know. I said it a couple weeks ago, probably 2 podcasts ago. Like, this is the point in the season where you're probably not making the playoffs. We'll see how it goes. I'd like to see them win. I'd still love to see them beat the Chiefs, but I don't expect it in their house, right? But I guess I think the last game that I actually really care about is probably the Broncos game. I want to keep that record going. And if it's like, if the Broncos win, they're in, I want to spoil it for them, right? But other than that, like, I think I probably am back to square one, and like, I would love to see them earn themselves a pretty high draft pick for the insurance of, hey, if we are looking to get a quarterback, we have a pretty great, draft pick to show to another team if we want to trade up, right? So say they earn the 6th or 7th overall pick and they want to go trade up to 2 overall, 3rd overall. It's not a big jump for that team. Maybe they just give up their first for next year, or even 2nd rounder this year and another pick or something, and it gets the job done. But we'll see. But the other aspect to it is put your young players out on the field, get them the ball, and see what you have in them, and see who is worth keeping, who is not worth keeping, and move on from there in the offseason. And as an organization, look towards what's our coaching staff going to look like, and who is going to be our quarterback.
Hire Harbaugh as soon as possible. There's going to be a lot of head coaching vacancies, and he's got to be the top person on everybody's board, and that's even if he wants to return to the NFL. And that's a whole nother debate. We can save that for the end of the season. Right now, Antonio Pierce is still fighting for that job. But the further we get along, like you said, the little mistakes that he makes here and there, or like the little questionable decisions, it's looking less and less like maybe he's the right fit long term. And really, if you're not doing something long term in the NFL, like, people don't really do rentals except for like quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, Jimmy Garoppolo should have just been a rental for this year, and then they doubled down and restructured him. But I'm telling you right now, Harbaugh is the best coaching candidate on the market, hands down.
I still don't know if it's hands down, and obviously, I have yet to fully look at like a full blown list of coaching candidates. I mean, when you compare them to like Josh McDaniels, Frank Reich, probably Ron Rivera, like yeah, I would take Jim Harbaugh, but I think once you start seeing offensive coordinators might be out there, like a Ben Johnson or maybe the Dolphins offensive coordinator, it becomes more interesting. Um, and I I see what the Texans are doing, and I can't help but think that that's still exactly what I want for this team, which is a defensive-minded head coach that focuses on building a great defense paired with drafting and you have to get lucky, a little lucky, or at least be really correct here. Draft the quarterback, right? They drafted CJ Stroud, and in 6 months since the draft, or however many months it's been, maybe 7, 8 months, it's like they're set. Now all they need to do is build up their defense, and they will be in the running to win Super Bowls for the next 10 years. Just like that, because they have a defensive-minded head coach who has proven to lead great defenses, and their defense hasn't like proven that they're a top 10 defense or anything like that, but they also drafted a defensive end at 3rd overall who is at one point supposed to be the 1st overall pick. Just if they just keep building and building, they already have Derek Stingley. It's like keep building on that defense. You have the Tank Dell and CJ Stroud connection. Get a little running game implemented as well. They're going to be a top 3 team in the AFC for 10 plus years. Watch.
Yeah, I mean, so long as everybody stays healthy, knock on wood, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know. Like, it can take one play to absolutely change the trajectory of a franchise.
100%.
Like with the 49ers, we saw with Lance, when he got injured, it completely changed everything, and it led to the emergence of Brock Purdy. Adam, thank you for checking out the live stream, says, I think he thinks his focus is on the draft already.
And obviously, this is for the Raiders here. Yeah, looking back on our conversation about the bye week and stuff, yeah, I mean, my focus is always on the draft, like deep down, but that's because half the time, I'm not really expecting playoffs, unfortunately. But there is a high likelihood that there's a lot of teams with like 4 or 5 wins right now. Like, you add on the bye week, and then the Vikings, who now really need a win, and they're going to get Justin Jefferson back healthy coming off a bye week against the Raiders. That's a very losable game. And then you have the Chiefs, and then you have the Colts, right? Either way, the Colts are the 7th seed right now, and then you have the Broncos, who might be one of the hottest teams in football. So I think I had missed a team in there somewhere, but a lot of
the Colts and then the Broncos are last. You guys definitely have the Chiefs one more time, and the Chargers another time.
Oh, the Chargers. That's who I forgot. Which the Chargers, any given week, they could put up 40 points. So they literally could lose out. Obviously, they don't want to, but I'm not trying to be super negative here, but as far as the Raiders go, but they can have a really high draft pick still, and that could be good for Adam for sure, and me, honestly.
But I mean, here's the thing: there's still a lot of teams that are still below the Raiders in the seeding. So like,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like, there's a lot of those teams that are like, they're either tied, or because the Raiders haven't had a bye yet, the Raiders have one less loss. So it's like they're 5-5 or 5-7 now, or whatever they are. Right? What the hell?
Raiders are 5-7.
5-7. Like, there are probably a couple of 4-8, 5-8 teams that come after the Raiders bye week might be above the Raiders in standings just through 1 week. And then if we lose to the Vikings, you tack on another loss, you tack on a couple more wins to those teams. suddenly we have the 9th overall pick in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So it's crazy how quickly it could shift. But we'll see how they play. Again, I think the focus right now is still on the players, who's worth keeping, who's worth starting next year, and all that. What positions do we have needs at? And then we'll see how the draft pick falls.
Mhm. Just as long as the Raiders don't trade several first-round picks to get a quarterback, because it has not worked at all for the last 2 teams to do it. And, those teams being the
Yeah, the
Panthers, and I won't
Panthers.
disclose the other team.
Right. Yeah, I'd rather just earn the pick and have somebody nice fall to us. But then again, the Chiefs also traded up from like 25th overall to 12th or 10th to get Mahomes. So you really never know. Um,
Mhm.
I just
And
hope that
that's
whatever the Raiders do, it's the right choice.
and that's the thing. Like, you know, I don't think Raider fans care. Like, all right, if you guys tank the rest of the season and then you get like a top pick and you get one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, Raider fans are going to be hyped and buy tickets next year. It's not like ticket sales are going to be hindered. They're not going to, that stadium's not going to be empty.
No, well, that's the thing about that stadium. For one thing, it'll never be empty. But what you really want is for your home team fans to show up. Which having Antonio Pierce take over, I know we've been on the Niners, but maybe because we're taking comments, we might be in the middle of it. So hopefully this is fine. But um, when McDaniels got fired and they hired uh, Antonio Pierce and they put out that hype video and everything, like I went to the Giants game. I literally was like, I have to go, and the tickets were cheap and yada yada yada, and it was good. And then the Jets game, like it really looked like a lot of Raider fans in there, and then even the Chiefs game, like the crowd was in it, and like it really sounded like a Raider home game, and I think that was the loudest I had ever heard it on TV in Vegas for like Raider scores, like 14-0. It was loud. That Jacobs run, it was loud. There was a lot less red in there than I had seen in previous years versus the Chiefs at Allegiant because the fans want to be there. So yeah, it sucks if like things sour and then they get a new head coach and it's a whole new process. Yes, but if you go out there and you draft a quarterback, you're damn right. They're going to show up because they're going to be hyped on that quarterback. It's just a matter of getting the right guy. So,
And you know what will get Raider fans not hyped and not want to show up?
Hiring.
No, nothing to
John
do with
Gruden.
hiring. Nothing to do
Okay.
with hiring. Just barely missing the playoffs and not getting a high enough pick to be able to take a top quarterback.
Yeah, the big fear and recurring theme for this team. If they just keep going on a repeating cycle of 8-9, 7-10, 6-11, and earning a 12th to 15th overall pick, not being able to get a quarterback, and then you know what happens? Here's what happens, okay? You can draft a good left tackle 15th overall named Colton Miller. Cool. Well, 3 years from then, your right tackle suddenly, or in a year from then, your right tackle's contract is up and he's hitting free agency. Oh, and you can't afford him. Now you have to draft a right tackle and you draft Alex Leatherwood. It's like it keeps fucking teetering. It's like you have to draft well. You have to keep those players. You have to develop your players. And that's where coaching staffs come in. That's why I'm so big on keeping Patrick Graham, is because this defense cannot have turnover again. What will happen is if they hire a guy like Jim Harbaugh and he says, I want my guy, and he goes and gets Mike Zimmer or Rex Ryan, and those guys decide, I'm going to run this 4-3 base defense, yada, 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 blah, 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 and Divine Diablo, Trevon Merrick, and Jacorian Bennett and Tyree Wilson do not fit my defense. I'm going to trade 2 of them. I'm going to cut the other 2. Oh my God, I will lose my mind. I will lose my mind because
until it works.
Yeah, but it'll take years. It's like it's working right now. If you
Harbaugh has shown results immediately. He shows results immediately.
He has, but the Raiders haven't. So which is going to break? Which trend is going to break? Because
I want to find out. I'm really excited to find out. I hope he goes to the Raiders. I want to see like, all right, the two. I want to see the two trends collide and see which one. Are the
I
Raiders so
can't.
shitty that even Harbaugh can't work out, or is Harbaugh so great that even the Raiders can't hold him back?
Right.
I want to
No,
know.
it's a
I've been
definite
saying it for
good.
how many years, Mike?
Yeah, it has the potential to be interesting. Obviously, I just can't help but think that the trend would be the Raiders overpaying a coach because it'll be a bidding war. A coach who has a big name and ego and expectation, who does not get the job done. Within 3 years, they fire him, and they look even more stupid than the last head coach, which was Josh McDaniels. Then the last head coach which was John Gruden. Then the last head coach, which was Jack Del Rio. Then the last head coach, which was Dennis Allen, Tony Sperano, or whoever.
Before
So
Del Rio might have been Tony Sperano, and then for him was Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
But,
before him, Hugh Jackson. But it just, I can't help but think what the Raiders need is like, and I've said this before, and this is my last point here, is just they need a guy who's more like, it's either you need Harbaugh to like implement the system and like fully turn around the culture. Okay, it can work. Or you need the guy who is just like chip on his shoulder, has never done this before. And I'm not trying to describe Antonio Pierce. I'm trying to describe who's a guy who's actually like ready for the job. Like say Ben Johnson from the Lions, a guy like I always forget his name, but the coach for the Texans,
DeMeco Ryans.
DeMeco Ryans, like a guy like him would be perfect. And I've seen the Dolphins, Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator. Like I read a big long article on him, and I was like really impressed with him. I mean, Dan Quinn would be cool, but I don't see him leaving Dallas, and I don't know if it would work. So, but I do see Jim Harbaugh being a top like 3 option. It's just he's going to be top dollar. It's going to be another coach that Mark Davis has to overpay, and if it doesn't work, it's like if these overpaid coaches can't work, how the hell can you expect like some nobody to make it work? You know. But I feel like a Dan Campbell is what you would need, a complete nobody that just turns around the locker room and everybody buys in.
Well, all right. You're saying you would rather have a mystery box, somebody come in who's going to get paid handsomely regardless. You know, you're going to come in and be the Raiders coach. You're going to get paid. You would rather
Yeah, but
have
you
a
won't have
mystery
like
box and
massive
somebody who,
guarantees.
like, it's not guaranteed it's going to work with Harbaugh, but it's worked everywhere he's gone. You know what? Like, that is the best candidate. He absolutely has the best track record of everyone. Unless Bill Belichick gets fired, and do you want Bill Belichick?
No, he's probably towards the bottom.
Yeah. But, you know, going back to the, you know, what the Raiders should do, you know, the focus on the draft, I did kind of think of this. You remember that scene from Waterboy where Rob Schneider goes, "Oh no, we suck again." It's, you know, if the Raiders start winning some games, "Oh no, we're good again." You know,
yeah,
like,
I mean, it's.
I know you've had those moments.
Oh
I know
yeah,
you've had those moments.
The biggest moment that has ever happened to me was when. What year was Nick Bosa drafted? 2019.
Yes.
So the 2018 season when the Raiders played the Cardinals, and it was like whoever won that game. Well, whoever lost that game had a high likelihood of getting the first overall pick because they weren't going to win any other games. And at the end of the game, like the final 4 minutes, it was like punt after punt after punt. They were punting to the opposing team, just begging them to score on them. But obviously the defense was still trying, but it's like I was sitting there like, please, for the love of God, let the Cardinals score. Lose the game. Earn the first pick. You can choose between Kyler Murray or Nick Bosa. And they needed defensive end bad. I was screaming Bosa. Funny how I would have been right, but they won the game. They ended up earning somehow the 4th overall pick, even though they got slaughtered by the Niners that year. I felt like they should have been above the Niners, but whatever. And we get Cleveland Farrell, they get Nick Bosa. It's funny how that shit works.
At least it wasn't the coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, that one wasn't as big of a deal, and it actually worked out in the Raiders' favor, but
yeah. I mean, you guys...
It's funny how...
I wish we had Colton Miller over McGlinchey.
Right. But anyway, that is the number one thing I am looking forward to at this point is, I'm curious to see how the rest of the season goes. I'm curious to see how the players play and see, like, okay, what do we really need here? But, like, the coaching decision, that is what I'm most intrigued in for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then the draft.
Fun fact, since we mentioned that draft with McGlinchey was so bad that Pia's dad still brings up McGlinchey as to why the Niners had so much problems on offense before. Still to this day, every single game. And then he compares, because he doesn't even say McGlinchey. He just says, oh, when they had 69, 69 was ruining everything because the quarterback knows that the pressure is going to come from the right side. And now, the Niners have 68 on the right side with Colton McKivitz. And, it's just sort of like McKivitz, in a way, has become the new McGlinchey, but he's not nearly as bad in pass protection.